I was lying on my deathbed, too broke to buy medicine, while my husband and his rich mistress stood laughing, certain I wouldn't survive the night. Years later, he stood in my office, abandoned, humiliated, begging for a job, not knowing the woman he once left to die was now the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. The cognitive damage should be permanent. The words drift through my hospital room like poison in my bloodstream. I lie motionless, my body paralyzed by the compound they fed me, but my mind razor-sharp as I listen to my husband Michael and my graduate student Ashley discuss my brain like a specimen under glass. They believe I cannot hear them planning to steal 8 years of my cancer research while I supposedly fade into mental oblivion. Every molecule of betrayal crystallizes as Ashley traces her finger along my life's work spread across the bedside table. This moment shatters everything I believed about the life I had built so carefully. Just yesterday morning I had arrived at my laboratory before dawn, as I had done every day for 8 years. The familiar ritual brought me peace. Steaming coffee warming my hands while I reviewed patient case files, the quiet hum of equipment preparing for another day of breakthrough research. My work on affordable cancer treatments represented more than academic pursuit. It embodied my promise to my mother's memory and my commitment to families who faced the same impossible choices we once confronted. Before we continue with what happened next, I want to thank you for listening to this difficult story. If you believe that intellectual integrity and scientific ethics matter, please consider subscribing. It helps us reach more researchers who need to hear this. Now let's see how my fight for justice unfolds. The laboratory had been my sanctuary, filled with the molecular building blocks of hope. I would adjust temperature controls on cell cultures while mentally calculating dosage formulations that could revolutionize oncology. Each successful experiment brought me closer to developing treatments that cost 90% less than existing alternatives without sacrificing effectiveness. The pharmaceutical industry had created artificial scarcity around life-saving medicines, pricing hope beyond the reach of ordinary families like mine. My mother's photograph sat beside my microscope, her smile frozen from the Christmas before her diagnosis. She died at 51 not because medical science lacked knowledge, but because we lacked resources to access cutting-edge treatments. The cruel irony still burned. She worked as a hospital administrator, surrounded by healing technology she could never afford for herself. Her death became the driving force behind every molecule I studied, every compound I synthesized, every late night I spent pursuing scientific breakthrough. Michael would find me in the laboratory each morning, his footsteps familiar on the tile floor. We shared those quiet moments before the building filled with students and faculty, two researchers united by passion for discovery. Our conversations flowed with intellectual partnership as we discussed protein synthesis results and potential applications for breakthrough discoveries. His excitement matched mine when experimental data exceeded projections, his understanding of cellular biology complementing my expertise in biochemistry perfectly. Our marriage had begun in graduate school when we discovered shared commitment to humanitarian science rather than corporate profit maximization. Michael supported my decision to focus on affordable treatments despite pressure from colleagues who favored more lucrative research directions. His belief in my vision sustained me through countless failed experiments and funding rejections, his admiration feeling earned rather than obligatory. Weekend mornings in our kitchen represented domestic harmony built around academic collaboration. The aroma of pancakes filled the air while we discussed research developments between bites of breakfast, our enthusiasm for each other's projects genuine and infectious. Michael would review my latest findings on targeted therapy mechanisms while I sketched molecular diagrams on napkins, both of us planning future collaborations and dreaming about discoveries that could save thousands of lives. Ashley Kim had embodied the next generation of dedicated researchers. She arrived early for our weekly meetings with notebooks filled with meticulous observations and thoughtful questions about molecular structures. Her biochemistry aptitude reminded me of my younger self, hungry to contribute meaningfully to medical science despite limited resources. I shared advanced laboratory techniques with Ashley that had taken me years to master, believing knowledge should pass to emerging scientists who shared our humanitarian values. Her insights impressed me because they demonstrated thinking beyond immediate research parameters toward broader therapeutic possibilities. When Ashley suggested exploring cardiovascular disease applications for my molecular binding patterns, I recognized the intellectual curiosity that drives breakthrough discovery. I took pride in mentoring her through complex methodologies, convinced I was nurturing someone who would continue advancing accessible medical treatments. The department respected my dedication to making advanced therapies available to underserved populations. Colleagues frequently stopped by my office to discuss methodologies and offer collaboration opportunities, recognizing that my work addressed critical gaps in healthcare equity. Dr. Richardson had visited recently to discuss my upcoming presentation at the International Oncology Conference, where I would reveal preliminary findings that could attract global attention to affordable cancer treatment development. Professional recognition built steadily as my research approached clinical trial readiness. International colleagues expressed interest in collaboration opportunities, understanding that affordable treatments could transform global healthcare delivery. The scientific community recognized my work's significance beyond academic circles toward real-world impact on patient outcomes. The university supported my research generously through grants and facility access, providing infrastructure necessary for groundbreaking discovery. Standing in my laboratory each morning, surrounded by 8 years of dedicated research and supported by loving partnership and institutional respect, I had believed the future held unlimited possibilities for honoring my mother's memory through medical breakthrough. The trust between Michael and me felt unshakable, rooted in shared values and mutual professional respect that transcended romantic love. Now, listening to them discuss patent applications and publication timelines as they divide my life's work between them like spoils of war, I understand how thoroughly I misjudged the people closest to me. Ashley murmurs about 6-month deadlines while Michael photographs each page of my research files with clinical efficiency. Their casual appropriation of discoveries that consumed my mother's dying wish and my professional dedication reveals betrayal deeper than I imagined possible. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across my hospital room as I maintain perfect stillness, letting them believe their poisoning succeeded in creating the cognitive damage they planned. Every word they speak provides evidence for the comprehensive response I am already formulating. They discuss rewriting my methodology sections and establishing priority claims, never suspecting that their supposedly brain-damaged victim possesses complete mental capacity and growing determination for justice. Their conspiracy extends beyond intellectual property theft to attempted murder through deliberate poisoning, systematic academic fraud, and institutional manipulation designed to eliminate me as competition. As Ashley traces molecular diagrams I drew while grieving my mother's death, I realize they are not just stealing my research but desecrating the memory that inspired every breakthrough they now claim as their own achievement. The memory of that perfect life dissolves as I focus on the conversation continuing beside my hospital bed. Michael's voice carries a tone I have never heard before, calculated and cold as he discusses logistics with Ashley. They speak in hushed tones, but every word reaches me with crystal clarity through the fog of medications coursing through my system. The evening had begun with such promise. Michael suggested celebrating my research milestone at Romano's, our favorite Italian restaurant where we had shared countless anniversaries and professional victories. His smile appeared warm and familiar as he made the reservation, his enthusiasm matching my excitement about the upcoming International Oncology Conference presentation. "We should make this special," Michael had said while adjusting his tie in our bedroom mirror. 8 years of research deserves proper recognition before you present to the world. Ashley's presence at dinner felt natural when Michael explained she wanted to learn about presenting research findings to international audiences. Her graduate program required exposure to high-level academic conferences, and I welcomed the opportunity to mentor her through the process of translating complex scientific concepts for diverse professional audiences. The restaurant buzzed with Friday evening energy as we settled into our corner booth, candlelight flickering across white tablecloths and gleaming silverware. Michael ordered a bottle of our favorite Chianti while Ashley studied the menu with careful attention to seafood selections. The atmosphere felt celebratory as we toasted my conference presentation and discussed the potential impact of affordable cancer treatments on global healthcare accessibility. To break through discoveries that honor the past while building the future, Michael proposed, raising his wine glass with theatrical flourish. The elaborate seafood platter arrived as our main course. Lobster tails, scallops, and shrimp arranged artfully around risotto that steamed with aromatic herbs. Michael and Ashley exchanged glances throughout the meal, brief eye contact that I interpreted as natural colleague dynamics rather than conspiratorial communication. Their conversation flowed smoothly between professional topics and personal observations, creating an evening that felt both intimate and intellectually stimulating. Ashley asked thoughtful questions about my research methodology while Michael contributed insights from his cellular biology expertise. Their genuine interest in my work reinforced my belief that I was surrounded by people who respected my scientific contributions and supported my humanitarian mission. The wine relaxed my usual caution about discussing preliminary findings, encouraging me to share details about breakthrough discoveries that could revolutionize cancer treatment accessibility. The molecular binding efficiency exceeds our most optimistic projections, I explained between bites of perfectly prepared seafood. We could reduce treatment costs by 90% while maintaining full therapeutic effectiveness. My throat began constricting during dessert, the familiar tightness I associated with shellfish exposure but magnified beyond any previous allergic reaction. Breathing became increasingly difficult as hives erupted across my skin with alarming speed and intensity. The restaurant transformed into controlled chaos as concerned diners watched staff members call for emergency medical assistance. Michael cradled me against his chest, his face displaying panic and concern that appeared completely genuine. His hands trembled as he stroked my hair while speaking rapidly to approaching paramedics about my medical history and known allergies. The performance felt so authentic that I never questioned his emotional response despite the growing severity of my symptoms. Ashley hovered nearby with professional composure, her medical training evident as she monitored my vital signs and provided clinical observations to emergency responders. She spoke with authority about allergic reaction protocols while maintaining calm demeanor that contrasted sharply with Michael's visible distress. Her competence impressed the paramedics, who accepted her assessment of my condition and treatment requirements. The ambulance ride blurred together in fragments of consciousness punctuated by medical procedures and urgent conversations. Michael held my hand throughout transport while Ashley coordinated with hospital staff about my arrival and immediate treatment needs. Their collaborative concern felt reassuring as I struggled with breathing difficulties and spreading inflammation that threatened to overwhelm my cardiovascular system. The emergency department medical team worked with practiced efficiency to stabilize my condition through intravenous medications and respiratory support. Michael provided comprehensive medical history to the attending physician while Ashley remained in the waiting area, offering to contact my university colleagues and handle any urgent laboratory matters during my hospitalization and recovery period. The reaction appears unusually severe, the attending physician explained to Michael after initial treatment stabilized my breathing. We are administering high doses of antihistamines and corticosteroids, but patients sometimes experience temporary neurological effects following this level of systemic inflammation. I drifted between consciousness and medicated stupor, my cognitive function fluctuating as powerful medications battled the allergic reaction coursing through my system. Gradually, awareness returned in waves that allowed me to process conversations occurring nearby without revealing my restored mental capacity to speakers who believed I remained unconscious. The clinical detachment in their voices struck me first. Michael and Ashley discussing my condition without the emotional concern expected from loved ones facing medical crisis. Ashley spoke with scientific precision about compound effectiveness while Michael responded with satisfaction rather than relief about my stabilized condition. The compound mimics her shellfish allergy perfectly, Ashley explained in measured tones that carried across the recovery room. Emergency medical response followed standard allergic reaction protocols without questioning the trigger source or considering alternative explanations. Michael's response chilled me to my core, revealing calculated planning behind what I had interpreted as spontaneous dinner celebration. Her trusting nature made targeting simple. She never suspected the modification to her usual seafood selections, and the delayed reaction timing prevents tracing back to specific preparation methods. Their conversation continued with technical discussions about neurological impact assessment and timeline expectations for cognitive recovery. Ashley provided clinical observations about my current mental state while Michael coordinated next steps for managing my hospitalization and eventual discharge planning. Neither displayed concern for my well-being beyond ensuring their deception remained undetected. The realization crashed over me like ice water. My husband and graduate student had deliberately poisoned me using carefully calculated methods designed to trigger severe allergic reactions while appearing completely accidental. Their elaborate planning extended beyond opportunistic betrayal to premeditated assault designed to eliminate me as competition for academic recognition and financial rewards. Every gesture of concern, every expression of panic, every moment of apparent devotion had been calculated performance designed to maintain their innocence while my body fought for survival. The people I trusted most had transformed dinner celebration into attempted murder, using my known allergies as weapons against me while maintaining perfect facades of shocked concern. As medication pulled me back toward unconsciousness, I understood that my perfect life had been nothing more than elaborate deception orchestrated by individuals who viewed me as obstacle to their ambitions rather than partner in scientific discovery. Their betrayal extended beyond intellectual theft to physical assault, revealing depths of callousness I had never imagined possible from people who claimed to love and respect me. The morning light filtered through hospital blinds as consciousness returned in measured doses. Michael and Ashley believed the medications had rendered me comatose, but my awareness sharpened with each passing hour while my body remained convincingly motionless. Their voices carried across the room with casual confidence as they prepared to execute the next phase of their calculated betrayal. I watched through barely parted eyelids as they approached my bedside with leather portfolios and manila folders containing 8 years of my life's work. Michael moved with practiced efficiency while Ashley arranged my research files across the bedside table with the reverence typically reserved for archaeological treasures. The fluorescent lighting cast harsh shadows across molecular diagrams I had sketched during countless late nights, each page representing months of breakthrough discoveries that could revolutionize cancer treatment accessibility. Ashley traced her finger along my protein synthesis charts with focused concentration, her graduate student training evident as she identified key molecular binding patterns that formed the foundation of my affordable treatment protocols. Michael positioned his phone camera methodically above each document, the mechanical click of photographs punctuating their systematic appropriation of my intellectual property. Their movements demonstrated rehearsed precision that revealed extensive prior planning rather than opportunistic theft. The delivery mechanism research represents the most valuable component, Michael explained while photographing pages of handwritten calculations that documented breakthrough discoveries in targeted therapy applications. These equations alone could generate millions in pharmaceutical licensing agreements before we even consider clinical trial potential. Ashley nodded while reviewing my laboratory protocol documentation, her expression reflecting someone evaluating commercial prospects rather than scientific merit. The cost reduction methodology opens markets across developing nations where current treatments remain financially inaccessible. We could position ourselves as humanitarian pioneers while maximizing profit margins through volume distribution. Their conversation revealed the depth of betrayal extending far beyond personal revenge into systematic exploitation of research designed to honor my mother's memory. Every breakthrough I had achieved while grieving her death, every late night I had spent developing affordable alternatives to profit-driven pharmaceutical approaches, was being reduced to financial opportunity by people who understood neither my motivation nor the ethical implications of their theft. Michael examined my clinical trial preparation notes with particular attention to patient demographics and outcome projections. Jennifer documented everything perfectly for regulatory approval processes. Her attention to detail eliminates years of preliminary work we would otherwise need to complete independently. The clinical detachment in his voice while discussing my dedication to thorough research methodology demonstrated how completely he had compartmentalized our marriage from his professional ambitions. Ashley contributed observations about my international collaboration correspondence, identifying contacts at Cambridge, Singapore, and Berlin who could provide research partnerships and regulatory pathways for advancing stolen discoveries. Her relationship with Dr. Elena Petrov could prove especially valuable, Ashley suggested while reviewing email printouts I had never authorized her to access. The Cambridge connection opens European Union approval processes that typically require decades of relationship building. I realized that Ashley had been systematically accessing my private correspondence and laboratory records for months, serving as Michael's intelligence source while maintaining her facade of dedicated graduate student mentorship. Every confidence I had shared about international colleagues, every discussion about research methodology, every moment of professional vulnerability had been methodically reported for strategic exploitation. Dr. Richardson's arrival interrupted their documentation process, his footsteps echoing down the hospital corridor as Tuesday morning rain streaked the windows with gray persistence. Michael quickly gathered the research files while Ashley assumed her position of concerned graduate student, both transitioning seamlessly into performances of devoted colleagues worried about their mentor's tragic condition. "Jennifer, I hope you understand the university's position regarding your research projects." Dr. Richardson began with practiced academic diplomacy, his tone suggesting decisions had already been finalized without my input. "Your current medical situation requires us to ensure continuity for ongoing studies that affect patient outcomes and funding obligations." The institutional machinery revealed its priorities through his carefully chosen words. Research continuity mattered more than researcher rights, funding obligations superseded personal considerations, and my manufactured medical crisis provided convenient justification for redistributing my life's work to more politically connected colleagues. Michael interjected with perfectly calibrated concern, his voice carrying just the right mixture of devotion and professional responsibility. "Dr. Richardson, Ashley and I want to preserve Jennifer's contributions while ensuring her research continues serving patients who need these treatments. We would be honored to oversee her work during this difficult recovery period." Ashley nodded with rehearsed sympathy, her graduate student deference masking the calculated ambition I now recognized had been present throughout our mentoring relationship. "Dr. Walsh's research represents too important a humanitarian mission to allow temporary setbacks to delay life-saving treatments. We feel obligated to continue her legacy." Dr. Richardson accepted their volunteer service with visible relief, grateful to resolve the complex situation of redistributing research projects without navigating ethical complications about intellectual property rights or academic credit attribution. The administrative efficiency with which they dismantled my professional identity revealed how quickly institutional loyalty evaporated when confronted with inconvenient circumstances. "The university appreciates your dedication to preserving Jennifer's important work," Dr. Richardson concluded while reviewing transfer documentation that Michael and Ashley had apparently prepared in advance. "We will process the temporary research reassignment immediately to minimize disruption to ongoing studies and funding compliance." As they finalized administrative details, I began my own performance of cognitive impairment designed to provide cover for the comprehensive response I was already formulating. My words emerged slurred and fragmented when Dr. Richardson attempted to explain the research transfer process, creating the impression of someone struggling with basic comprehension while my mind operated at full analytical capacity. "My research, the cancer treatments," I managed to say with convincing confusion, allowing my voice to trail off as if losing track of complex thoughts that had once defined my professional identity. Michael squeezed my hand with practiced tenderness while addressing Dr. Richardson's concerns about my apparent difficulty processing information. "The neurological effects seem to impact her ability to maintain focus on scientific concepts. We are hoping cognitive rehabilitation might restore some functionality over time." Ashley contributed sympathetic observations about my condition while offering to help organize my research materials for preservation during recovery. Her volunteer service impressed medical staff and university administrators as evidence of exceptional dedication to mentoring relationships that transcended personal inconvenience. The elaborate deception required me to witness the systematic dismantling of my professional identity while maintaining convincing performance of cognitive disability. Every practiced gesture of concern, every expression of false sympathy, every moment of manufactured devotion served their strategy of legitimizing intellectual property theft through institutional channels that prioritized research continuity over researcher rights. As Dr. Richardson departed with signed authorization for research transfer, Michael and Ashley resumed their documentation process with renewed confidence that their deception had achieved official sanction for systematic appropriation of my life's work. The weeks that followed Dr. Richardson's visit transformed my existence into a carefully choreographed performance of decline. Michael arrived each morning with fresh flowers and expressions of devoted concern that convinced every medical professional, visitor, and colleague who witnessed his dedication. The roses he brought on Tuesday mornings came from the same florist where he had purchased my birthday bouquets, but now they served as props in an elaborate theatrical production designed to legitimize my intellectual property theft. Ashley's volunteer service impressed everyone who encountered her selfless dedication to preserving her former mentor's research legacy. She organized my laboratory materials with meticulous care, cataloging equipment and securing data files with the efficiency of someone genuinely committed to scientific preservation rather than systematic appropriation. Her graduate student enthusiasm for maintaining my work's continuity earned praise from department administrators who viewed her as an exemplary protégé honoring her disabled mentor's contributions. I spent those endless afternoons positioned in my wheelchair during faculty social gatherings, watching colleagues navigate conversations around my supposed cognitive limitations with uncomfortable politeness. They spoke to me in kindergarten language, their words carefully chosen to avoid complex concepts that might overwhelm my diminished capacity. Dr. Martinez from the chemistry department would lean close and speak slowly about weather patterns while avoiding any mention of our previous collaboration on molecular synthesis projects. "Jennifer, the sunshine feels nice today, doesn't it?" she would say with exaggerated cheerfulness, patting my hand while her eyes carefully avoided direct contact that might embarrass me further. The psychological torture of understanding their deception while being unable to expose it created isolation more profound than physical imprisonment. I sat surrounded by people who had once valued my intellectual contributions, listening to them discuss my tragic decline with sympathetic whispers and concerned glances. Their genuine compassion for my supposed condition made their unwitting participation in my professional assassination even more devastating. Michael accepted their sympathy with graceful humility, describing sleepless nights spent worrying about my future and the emotional burden of watching his brilliant wife fade into cognitive confusion. His performance convinced even skeptical colleagues who had initially questioned the severity of my condition. His detailed descriptions of home care challenges and medical appointment complexities providing believable evidence of legitimate spousal devotion. The marriage counseling sessions became weekly exhibitions of Michael's false compassion and my enforced silence. Dr. Patricia Holbrook's office contained soft lighting and comfortable chairs designed to facilitate honest emotional communication, but our sessions represented the opposite of therapeutic honesty. Michael spoke eloquently about the challenges of caring for a spouse whose cognitive capacity had been permanently diminished by medical trauma. "She struggles to remember our shared experiences," Michael explained with perfectly calibrated sadness during one particularly convincing performance. "Yesterday she asked me to explain research concepts she had mastered years ago, as if encountering them for the first time. The woman I married possessed one of the sharpest scientific minds I had ever encountered, and now she needs assistance with basic daily functions." Dr. Holbrook nodded with professional empathy while taking notes about caregiver stress and adjustment challenges. She recommended support groups for spouses of traumatic brain injury patients, providing Michael with pamphlets about coping strategies and long-term care planning. His grateful acceptance of these resources demonstrated commitment to our marriage that impressed the therapist while providing additional validation for his devoted husband narrative. I maintained my confused demeanor throughout these sessions, occasionally offering fragmented responses that suggested cognitive processing difficulties without revealing my complete awareness of their deception. The effort required to suppress my natural intellectual responses while watching my marriage dissolve into elaborate fraud exhausted me more than any physical challenge I had ever faced. Former research collaborators approached me during department functions with gentle condolences about my condition, sharing memories of our past scientific partnerships with wistful sadness. Dr. James Peterson, who had worked with me on protein synthesis applications, would sit beside my wheelchair and speak slowly about simpler topics while carefully avoiding references to our previous breakthrough discoveries. "I remember when you first explained molecular binding patterns to me," he would say with nostalgic fondness, his voice carrying the tone reserved for commemorating the deceased. "Your clarity of thought helped me understand concepts that had puzzled me for months." These conversations felt like attending my own funeral, listening to eulogies for intellectual capacity that remained completely intact while everyone assumed cognitive death. The academic community that had once respected my expertise now viewed me as a cautionary tale about how quickly brilliant minds could be lost to medical catastrophe. Their genuine grief for my supposed condition made their participation in legitimizing my intellectual theft even more cruel. Michael gracefully accepted condolences from colleagues while describing his commitment to continuing my research in my honor. He spoke passionately about preserving my humanitarian mission to develop affordable cancer treatments, his words echoing my actual motivations with such accuracy that I almost believed his dedication was genuine rather than calculated appropriation of my life's purpose. The most devastating realization came during solitary moments in my hospital room when I confronted the full scope of what Michael and Ashley were stealing from me. My cancer treatment research had not merely represented professional achievement or academic recognition. It embodied my promise to my mother's memory and my commitment to preventing other families from facing the impossible financial choices that had defined her final months. Every breakthrough I had achieved while grieving her death, every late night spent developing affordable alternatives to profit-driven pharmaceutical approaches, every moment of scientific inspiration driven by love and loss was being corrupted by people who understood neither my motivation nor the sacred nature of the work they were appropriating. My mother's photograph remained beside my hospital bed, her smile frozen in time from the Christmas before her diagnosis, now witnessing the desecration of the legacy I had built to honor her memory. The emotional weight of watching my life's mission being stolen by my closest confidants threatened to overwhelm the determination I needed to survive their systematic betrayal. They were not simply taking credit for scientific discoveries, they were claiming ownership of my grief, my love, my promise to transform personal loss into global healing through accessible medical innovation. As another day ended with Michael's tender kiss goodnight and Ashley's concerned inquiries about my comfort level, I understood that my apparent cognitive impairment provided the perfect cover for developing the comprehensive response their betrayal demanded. They believed they had eliminated me as a threat to their academic ambitions, but they had actually created the conditions necessary for their complete professional destruction. The encrypted message arrived at 3 a.m. while Michael slept peacefully beside me, unaware that I had been using our shared computer to access communication channels he never knew existed. The familiar notification sound of my Cambridge research account sent electricity through my nervous system, a connection to my former professional identity that transcended the elaborate deception surrounding my supposed cognitive decline. Dr. Elena Petrov's response appeared on screen within hours of my carefully coded inquiry, her words providing the first validation of my intellectual capacity since the poisoning incident. The message contained scientific references and complex theoretical discussions that demonstrated her complete rejection of rumors about my mental deterioration. Her willingness to engage with advanced biochemistry concepts proved that the international research community maintained respect for my contributions despite domestic academic conspiracy. Jennifer, the reports about your condition contradict everything I know about your intellectual resilience, Elena wrote through our encrypted research channel. Your previous work on targeted therapy delivery systems represents breakthrough thinking that extends far beyond preliminary findings. I would welcome collaboration opportunities regardless of current circumstances, particularly given the humanitarian implications of your affordable treatment research. Her message included technical references to molecular binding patterns and protein synthesis applications that required sophisticated understanding to interpret correctly. The complexity of her communication served as both intellectual validation and coded invitation to resume our professional partnership through secure international channels that bypass domestic academic oversight entirely. Elena's connections extended throughout European research institutions where my reputation remained intact despite whispered rumors about cognitive impairment. She provided encrypted contact information for colleagues who had followed my work with professional interest and personal admiration for my commitment to accessible medical innovation. These researchers operated beyond the reach of Michael and Ashley's systematic campaign to appropriate my intellectual property. Dr. Ahmed Hassan responded to Elena's introduction within 24 hours, his message demonstrating immediate recognition of my research significance and offering substantial collaboration opportunities through his Cairo Medical Center. His clinical trials experience with affordable treatment protocols aligned perfectly with my humanitarian mission to develop cancer therapies accessible to underserved global populations. Your approach to cost reduction through innovative synthesis methods could transform healthcare delivery across developing regions, Dr. Hassan explained in his initial encrypted communication. My medical center possesses patient populations and regulatory pathways that could expedite clinical testing while maintaining rigorous scientific standards. We share your commitment to proving that advanced treatments need not remain luxury commodities. Dr. Sarah's response from Singapore provided manufacturing perspectives that complemented Hassan's clinical expertise. Her partnerships with biotechnology firms offered production capabilities that could reduce treatment costs by 90% while maintaining therapeutic effectiveness. Her message included detailed analysis of supply chain logistics and regulatory compliance procedures that demonstrated serious commitment to implementing my research on commercial scale. The molecular structures you developed represent engineering elegance that translates perfectly to mass production protocols, Dr. Chin wrote with technical precision that revealed deep understanding of my methodologies. Singapore's regulatory environment supports rapid transition from laboratory research to patient-accessible treatments, particularly for innovations that address global health equity concerns. Dr. Marcus Weber's contribution from Berlin focused on European Union approval processes that could fast-track my innovations through regulatory channels typically requiring decades of bureaucratic navigation. His expertise in pharmaceutical compliance and government relations provided pathways for legitimizing my stolen research through international channels that bypassed domestic academic corruption entirely. The shadow network expanded rapidly as Elena facilitated introductions between colleagues who recognized my work's significance despite attempts to discredit my intellectual capacity. Each researcher brought unique capabilities that complemented the others, creating collaborative infrastructure capable of transforming my preliminary findings into comprehensive treatment protocols serving global patient populations. Elena arranged my first secret laboratory access during a supposed medical appointment, coordinating timing that allowed me to work with advanced equipment while maintaining my cognitive disability performance for domestic audiences. The journey to Cambridge required careful preparation to ensure Michael and Ashley remained unaware of my actual destination and purpose. The familiar rhythm of scientific research flooded back as I entered Elena's laboratory after months of enforced intellectual suppression. My hands moved with practiced precision while manipulating molecular structures and analyzing compound interactions that had consumed my thoughts during weeks of pretending cognitive confusion. The equipment responded to my touch with mechanical reliability that contrasted sharply with the human betrayal that had nearly destroyed my career. Elena observed my work with satisfaction that confirmed my cognitive abilities remained completely intact despite Michael and Ashley's poisoning attempt. Her presence provided professional companionship I had missed during months of isolation among people who viewed me as intellectually diminished. The joy of unrestricted intellectual engagement threatened to overwhelm my emotional control as I rediscovered the scientific passion that defined my identity. Your molecular synthesis techniques demonstrate advancement beyond your previous publications, Elena noted while reviewing my laboratory results. The cognitive enhancement appears to contradict medical reports completely, suggesting your intellectual capacity not only survived the incident but evolved through adversity. Our collaboration session extended through the afternoon as we refined treatment protocols and discussed implementation strategies that could serve patient populations across 4 continents. The international scope of our partnership transformed my stolen research from academic property dispute into humanitarian mission transcending national boundaries and institutional politics. Dr. Hassan's clinical trial proposals arrived that evening, outlining patient selection criteria and outcome measurement protocols that could validate my treatments through rigorous scientific methodology. His Cairo Medical Center offered regulatory pathways unavailable in the United States, where pharmaceutical industry influence constrained innovation that threatened established profit structures. Dr. Chin provided manufacturing cost analysis that demonstrated economic feasibility of producing my treatments at prices accessible to families facing financial constraints similar to those that had limited my mother's treatment options. Her Singapore partnerships offered production capacity that could serve global markets while maintaining quality standards necessary for therapeutic effectiveness. Dr. Weber's European Union regulatory roadmap outlined approval processes that could establish my treatments as legitimate medical innovations within 2 years rather than the typical decade required for pharmaceutical development. His government relations expertise provided political pathways for circumventing corporate resistance to affordable treatment alternatives. The international collaboration began transforming my preliminary research into a comprehensive therapeutic system that honored my mother's memory while serving patients worldwide. The network operated beyond Michael and Ashley's awareness or control, creating parallel research infrastructure that would eventually expose their academic fraud while establishing my legitimate claims to breakthrough discoveries they had attempted to steal. Each encrypted message strengthened my resolve and expanded my capabilities for developing the response their betrayal demanded. They believed they had eliminated me as competition for academic recognition and financial rewards, but they had actually created conditions necessary for building international research empire that transcended their limited domestic ambitions completely. The establishment of my international research network provided the foundation for what would become the most elaborate performance of my life. While Michael and Ashley celebrated their academic success built on stolen research, I began constructing a parallel professional identity that would eventually eclipse their fraudulent achievements entirely. The Pemberton Award ceremony took place on a crisp October evening in the university's grand auditorium, crystal chandeliers casting warm light over an audience of distinguished researchers and academic administrators. I positioned my wheelchair in the back corner where shadows provided cover for the small recording device I had concealed beneath my blanket. Michael stood at the podium in his finest suit, the prestigious award gleaming in his hands as he delivered an acceptance speech that quoted directly from my personal research journal. "Advanced cancer treatments must serve humanity rather than corporate profit margins," Michael declared with passionate conviction, his voice carrying across the auditorium with theatrical authority. "We have an obligation to develop therapies that remain accessible to families facing the most difficult medical challenges." The words pierced through me because I had written them in my journal the night after my mother's funeral, my grief transforming into determination to prevent other families from experiencing our financial helplessness. Michael delivered my most personal reflections about medical equity with such convincing emotion that even I might have believed his dedication was genuine if I had not witnessed his systematic theft firsthand. Ashley occupied a prominent seat in the front row, her confident bearing reflecting someone who believed academic success had been legitimately earned through merit and dedication. Her graduate student nervousness had evolved into professional assurance as she accepted congratulations from colleagues who praised her collaborative contributions to groundbreaking research. The transformation from uncertain mentee to accomplished researcher demonstrated her complete psychological adoption of the stolen identity they had constructed together. The stolen accolades no longer inflicted the sharp emotional pain I had experienced during earlier phases of their deception. My international partnerships with Elena, Hassan, Chin, and Weber had advanced far beyond the preliminary findings that formed the foundation of Michael and Ashley's academic recognition. While they celebrated obsolete research discoveries, I was developing treatment protocols that would soon make their achievements appear primitive by comparison. The International Oncology Conference provided an even more revealing demonstration of their intellectual limitations. Michael and Ashley presented research findings that bore my name in small print under special acknowledgments, while their names dominated the presentation slides. I observed from the middle of the packed auditorium, my wheelchair positioned to provide clear sightlines while remaining inconspicuous among hundreds of attendees. Their presentation proceeded smoothly through prepared remarks that summarized my documented discoveries, but technical questions from the audience exposed the shallow depth of their understanding. Dr. Patricia Williams from Johns Hopkins pressed them about molecular binding mechanisms that required theoretical knowledge extending beyond surface-level data appropriation. "Could you explain the relationship between protein synthesis rates and therapeutic effectiveness in your targeted delivery system?" Dr. Williams asked with genuine scientific curiosity. Michael exchanged a quick glance with Ashley before providing a generalized response that avoided the specific biochemical pathways that formed the core of my breakthrough methodology. Ashley attempted to supplement his answer with additional technical details, but her graduate student background left her unable to defend advanced concepts that required years of specialized research experience to master fully. Their inability to engage with sophisticated questions revealed the fraudulent foundation of their academic success to anyone with expertise sufficient to recognize the gaps in their knowledge. The presentation succeeded in impressing general audiences, but discerning researchers began questioning the depth of understanding behind their breakthrough claims. I systematically documented their performances while building comprehensive evidence files that would eventually expose their academic fraud to institutional and legal authorities. Small recording devices concealed in my wheelchair captured conversations between Michael and Ashley as they coordinated patent application strategies and publication timelines that proved deliberate theft of intellectual property. Their private discussions revealed months of premeditation extending back to periods before my poisoning incident. Email exchanges recovered from Michael's laptop during his shower routines established clear coordination with Ashley about accessing my research files and laboratory protocols for strategic appropriation. Financial records showed Michael's purchase of the synthetic compound used to trigger my severe allergic reaction, providing concrete evidence of attempted murder disguised as accidental medical emergency. Each piece of evidence strengthened the dossier that would eventually destroy their careers while vindicating my legitimate claims to breakthrough discoveries they had systematically stolen. The documentation process required careful timing and sophisticated technological resources, but Elena's legal connections provided expertise necessary for building ironclad cases against academic fraud and criminal conspiracy. Working through Elena's international network, I established Biochem Innovations as a legitimate biotechnology corporation registered across 17 countries through shell companies and legal partnerships that maintained complete secrecy about my involvement and cognitive recovery. The incorporation process required substantial financial resources that I accessed through cryptocurrency investments made years earlier during more prosperous periods of my research career. The company existed initially only as legal documentation and financial infrastructure, but represented the culmination of my life's work transformed into an international enterprise dedicated to affordable medical breakthroughs. Elena coordinated with business attorneys in London, Singapore, and Berlin to create operational frameworks that could support rapid expansion once my treatments achieved regulatory approval through Hawson, Chin, and Weber's respective pathways. Shell corporations provided operational infrastructure while maintaining plausible deniability about my cognitive capacity and business involvement. The elaborate legal architecture allowed me to conduct international commerce and research coordination while maintaining my performance of intellectual disability for domestic audiences who continued viewing me as tragically diminished. The irony of building a global biotechnology empire while pretending to suffer permanent brain damage added profound satisfaction to each carefully orchestrated business transaction. Michael and Ashley remained completely unaware that the woman they had attempted to eliminate as professional competition was constructing commercial infrastructure that would soon dominate the exact market segments they hoped to enter through their stolen research. Biochem Innovations represented more than corporate entity or financial investment vehicle. The company embodied my commitment to honoring my mother's memory through accessible medical innovation while serving patient populations worldwide who faced the same financial barriers that had limited her treatment options. Every business decision reflected humanitarian values that Michael and Ashley had appropriated for their fraudulent academic personas while remaining fundamentally committed to profit maximization rather than genuine medical equity. The international scope of my operations transcended their limited domestic academic ambitions completely, creating parallel research infrastructure that operated beyond their awareness or control. While they celebrated recognition for preliminary discoveries, I was building commercial capabilities that would soon render their achievements obsolete through superior treatment protocols serving global markets they could never access through traditional academic channels. The performance continued each evening when Michael returned home to find his cognitively impaired wife struggling with simple tasks while secretly managing complex international business operations that would eventually expose his crimes and establish my legitimate claim to breakthrough medical discoveries that could save thousands of lives worldwide. The months following Biochem Industries Incorporation demanded psychological compartmentalization that tested the limits of my emotional endurance. Each day required seamless transitions between cognitive disability performance and sophisticated international business operations, maintaining perfect consistency in both roles while neither audience suspected the existence of the other. The university's annual research symposium provided the most challenging test of my acting abilities. Faculty members gathered in the elegant ballroom where I had once presented groundbreaking findings to enthusiastic professional audiences. Now I sat in my wheelchair beside the refreshment table, watching colleagues navigate conversations around my supposed limitations with uncomfortable politeness. Dr. Rebecca Martinez approached with the exaggerated cheerfulness reserved for children and cognitively impaired adults. "Jennifer, you look lovely tonight," she said while patting my hand with gentle condescension. "The decorations are beautiful, aren't they? So many pretty colors." I smiled vacantly while internally cataloging her assumptions about traumatic brain injury and the social protocols people develop to interact with intellectual disability. Her genuine compassion made her unwitting participation in legitimizing my professional assassination more painful than deliberate cruelty would have been. She spoke about simple topics while carefully avoiding references to our previous collaboration on molecular synthesis projects that had generated breakthrough discoveries. Michael circulated through the gathering with practiced grace, accepting condolences about my condition while describing the emotional challenges of caring for a spouse whose cognitive capacity had been permanently diminished. His performance convinced even skeptical colleagues who had initially questioned the severity of my supposed impairment. The hardest part is watching her struggle with concepts she once mastered effortlessly, Michael explained to Dr. James Peterson, his voice carrying perfectly calibrated sadness. Yesterday she asked me to explain basic protein structures as if encountering them for the first time. The brilliant woman I married seems trapped inside a mind that can no longer access her former capabilities. Ashley moved through the crowd with confident bearing that reflected someone who believed academic success had been legitimately earned through personal merit and dedication. Her Johns Hopkins postdoctoral position provided credibility that impressed faculty members who praised her exceptional transition from graduate student to accomplished researcher. She accepted congratulations gracefully while occasionally glancing toward me with expressions that mixed pity and barely concealed contempt. The cognitive rehabilitation sessions represented particularly insulting exhibitions of supposed therapeutic intervention. Dr. Sandra Williams operated a private practice specializing in traumatic brain injury recovery, her office decorated with motivational posters and simple puzzles designed to rebuild cognitive function gradually. I attended weekly appointments where therapists recommended memory exercises that I could have designed myself, nodding appreciatively while practicing tasks that required intellectual capacity equivalent to elementary school level. "Let's work on pattern recognition today," Dr. Williams suggested while arranging colored blocks in sequences that challenged patients struggling with basic cognitive processing. "Try to identify the next element in this progression." I studied the simple geometric patterns with apparent concentration while suppressing the urge to explain advanced mathematical relationships that governed complex molecular structures. The rehabilitation exercises insulted my intellectual capacity while providing valuable opportunities to gather evidence about the compounds used in my poisoning through conversations between Michael and medical staff who believed I could not understand their clinical discussions. "Her progress remains slower than typical recovery patterns," Dr. Williams explained to Michael during one appointment while reviewing my fabricated assessment scores. "The neurological damage appears more extensive than initial medical evaluations suggested, possibly indicating complications from the severe allergic reaction that triggered her condition." Michael nodded gravely while accepting recommendations for long-term care planning and cognitive support strategies that reinforced his devoted husband narrative. Ashley occasionally accompanied us to appointments, playing the concerned former student worried about her mentor's declining abilities while gathering information that could support their continued appropriation of my research legacy. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen's reports from Singapore provided validation that my intellectual capabilities remained not only intact but enhanced through adversity and international collaboration. Her clinical trial results demonstrated remarkable success rates with my targeted therapy protocols, validating years of research that Michael and Ashley had reduced to preliminary academic publications. "The treatment effectiveness exceeds our most optimistic projections," Dr. Chen reported through encrypted communication channels. "Patient responses show therapeutic benefits comparable to existing treatments at costs 90% lower than current market alternatives. Your molecular engineering represents breakthrough innovation that could transform global healthcare delivery." The Singapore manufacturing analysis confirmed that my treatments could be produced at prices accessible to patients worldwide, fulfilling my original mission to honor my mother's memory through affordable medical innovation. The clinical success provided concrete proof that my cognitive abilities remained completely intact despite local assumptions about permanent brain damage caused by allergic reactions. International patient outcomes began generating substantial revenue streams that funded biochem industry's expansion while Michael and Ashley remained completely unaware of my growing biotechnology empire. The financial success demonstrated commercial viability of my research innovations while proving that humanitarian medical missions could achieve profitability without compromising therapeutic effectiveness or accessibility. Ashley's psychological transformation provided fascinating insight into how academic pressure and professional ambition could corrupt formerly ethical individuals. I observed her evolution from nervous graduate student to arrogant researcher whose confidence grew as she internalized stolen academic success as personal achievement rather than intellectual theft. Her postdoctoral position at Johns Hopkins connected her with additional research opportunities and professional networks that she considered earned through legitimate merit and exceptional ability. During faculty social gatherings, she discussed her career trajectory with pride that suggested complete psychological adoption of the fraudulent identity she had constructed through systematic appropriation of my life's work. The transition from graduate research to independent investigation requires intellectual maturity that develops through mentoring relationships, Ashley explained to younger faculty members seeking career advice. My experience working with Dr. Walsh taught me methodologies that proved invaluable for advancing my own research directions. Her casual reference to our former relationship as educational experience rather than exploitation revealed the depth of her self-deception about the nature of her academic achievements. She sometimes displayed barely concealed contempt for my supposed cognitive limitations during social interactions, viewing me as cautionary tale about how brilliant minds could be suddenly diminished by medical catastrophe. The psychological complexity of maintaining dual professional identities while witnessing systematic destruction of my legitimate reputation required emotional control that stretched my mental resources to their limits. Each day demanded perfect performance in both roles while neither audience suspected the existence of elaborate deception that encompassed their entire understanding of my current capabilities and future potential. The social theater continued through evening routines when Michael returned home to find his cognitively impaired wife struggling with simple household tasks while secretly managing complex international business operations that would eventually expose his crimes and establish my legitimate claims to breakthrough medical discoveries capable of saving thousands of lives worldwide. The psychological tension between maintaining my disability performance and managing increasingly complex international operations reached its peak during the spring months when biochem industries began attracting attention from Nobel laureates who recognized the significance of my work despite persistent rumors about cognitive impairment. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo contacted Elena directly after reviewing clinical trial data from our Singapore operations, expressing immediate interest in collaborative research that could advance cancer treatment accessibility across Asia-Pacific regions. The molecular engineering demonstrated in these protocols represents paradigm-shifting innovation, Dr. Tanaka wrote through encrypted channels. My laboratory specializes in protein synthesis optimization, and I believe our combined expertise could accelerate treatment development while reducing manufacturing costs even further. Elena coordinated introductions between Dr. Tanaka and our existing research consortium, creating a network that now spanned 4 continents and included some of the most respected names in biochemical research. The collective expertise transformed my stolen preliminary findings into comprehensive treatment systems that surpassed anything Michael and Ashley could achieve through their surface-level appropriation of intellectual property. Dr. Hassan's Cairo implementation had expanded to serve patient populations across North Africa and the Middle East, generating clinical data that demonstrated treatment effectiveness across diverse genetic backgrounds and socioeconomic conditions. His quarterly reports showed success rates exceeding 90% while maintaining production costs that made advanced therapies accessible to families facing financial constraints similar to those that had limited my mother's treatment options. The humanitarian impact extends beyond individual patient outcomes, Dr. Hassan reported during our monthly encrypted conference calls. Entire communities are accessing cancer treatments that were previously available only to wealthy populations in developed nations. Your research is fulfilling its original mission on a scale that transcends academic recognition or commercial success. Dr. Weber's navigation of European Union regulatory processes had accelerated approval timelines from decades to months, positioning biochem industries as a legitimate competitor to established pharmaceutical corporations that had maintained artificial scarcity around life-saving medicines. His connections within government health agencies provided pathways for large-scale treatment deployment once my revenge plan reached its culmination. Managing these operations while maintaining my cognitive disability performance required logistical coordination that tested my organizational capabilities. Financial transactions flowed through cryptocurrency networks and offshore banking systems while I attended marriage counseling sessions where Michael described the emotional burden of caring for his intellectually diminished wife. International regulatory compliance proceeded through legal frameworks spanning multiple jurisdictions while I practiced elementary memory exercises during cognitive rehabilitation appointments. The complexity of simultaneously operating a global biotechnology empire and portraying severe brain damage created psychological pressure that paradoxically strengthened my resolve for eventual justice. Each successful business transaction while maintaining perfect disability acting reinforced my confidence that Michael and Ashley would never anticipate the comprehensive response their betrayal had made inevitable. Revenue generation began exceeding our most optimistic projections as international sales expanded through distribution networks that Dr. Chen had established across Southeast Asia and Dr. Weber had developed throughout European Union markets. Patient testimonials arrived daily through secure communication channels, describing treatment effectiveness that validated my decades of scientific dedication while honoring my mother's memory through accessible medical innovation. "Your treatments saved my daughter's life when we had exhausted all other options," wrote Maria Santos from São Paulo, whose family had participated in expanded clinical trials through Dr. Hassan's South American partnerships. The financial accessibility allowed us to pursue advanced therapy without bankrupting our household or compromising care for our other children. These testimonials provided emotional validation that transcended financial success or professional vindication. Each life saved through my research represented fulfillment of the promise I had made beside my mother's hospital bed, transforming personal grief into global healing through scientific breakthrough and humanitarian commitment. The financial success contrasted sharply with Michael and Ashley's academic recognition, which remained dependent on obsolete research findings they could not advance beyond preliminary stages. Their publications had generated modest consulting fees and speaking engagements, but their shallow understanding of underlying methodologies prevented them from developing the innovations necessary for commercial application or clinical advancement. Revenue reinvestment accelerated research development and manufacturing capacity, creating infrastructure that could serve global markets once my true involvement became public knowledge. Biochem Industries established production facilities across 3 continents while Michael and Ashley celebrated academic awards based on research they could neither defend nor extend through original contributions. Strategic partnerships with major pharmaceutical companies began emerging as Biochem Industries' reputation spread throughout international medical communities. Government health agencies from 12 countries initiated discussions about large-scale treatment procurement for national healthcare systems seeking cost-effective alternatives to existing therapeutic options. Biochem Industries represents the future of accessible cancer treatment, observed Dr. Lisa Park from the World Health Organization during a confidential assessment of emerging biotechnology firms. Their innovations could transform global healthcare delivery while maintaining therapeutic effectiveness that rivals or exceeds current standards. The company's growing reputation created inevitable momentum toward confrontation with Michael and Ashley, whose academic careers had plateaued at the level of their intellectual theft. They could not advance beyond stolen research they could not fully comprehend, while my legitimate innovations continued generating breakthrough discoveries through international collaboration and commercial application. The positioning created perfect circumstances for revealing their fraud while establishing my claims to breakthrough medical discoveries they had systematically appropriated. Biochem Industries' success would provide irrefutable evidence of my cognitive capacity while demonstrating the commercial and humanitarian potential they had failed to recognize in their preliminary theft of intellectual property. Michael's greatest professional aspiration had always been transitioning from academic research into biotechnology leadership where scientific innovation could achieve global impact and substantial financial rewards. The irony that his desired career advancement would depend entirely on the woman he had attempted to destroy through deliberate poisoning provided perfect symmetry for the comprehensive justice their betrayal demanded. Each day brought new evidence of Biochem Industries' growing influence while Michael and Ashley remained completely unaware that their former victim had constructed an international empire that would soon expose their crimes while establishing legitimate claims to breakthrough discoveries that could save thousands of lives worldwide. The woman they had tried to eliminate as professional competition had become their most formidable opponent, operating beyond their awareness while building capabilities that would eventually render their fraudulent achievements completely obsolete. The phone call that would change everything arrived on a Thursday evening in late September. I was in the living room, folding laundry with the deliberately uncoordinated movements that had become second nature after 4 years of performance, when Michael's phone rang in the kitchen. His voice carried the professional tone he used for university business, but I heard it shift as the conversation progressed. Biochem Industries? Michael's voice rose slightly, betraying surprise that he quickly tried to mask. Yes, I'm familiar with your company's work in affordable cancer treatments. I maintained my focus on the laundry while my pulse quickened. 4 years of careful planning had led to this moment, when the company I had built from my hospital bed would finally reveal itself as the trap that would ensnare my betrayers. The recruiter's voice was audible through the phone's speaker, explaining their interest in interviewing Michael for the director of research position. Your publications on targeted therapy delivery systems have impressed our executive team, the recruiter continued. We believe your expertise aligns perfectly with our mission to develop accessible cancer treatments for global markets. Michael's face drained of color as he processed the implications of this unexpected opportunity. Biochem Industries represented the pinnacle of biotechnology innovation in his field, a company whose rapid rise had generated industry speculation about the brilliant minds behind their breakthrough treatments. His hand trembled slightly as he accepted the interview invitation for the following Monday morning. Within an hour of ending the call, Ashley arrived at our house with barely contained excitement. She had driven across town immediately after Michael contacted her, understanding that this opportunity represented everything they had worked toward through their systematic appropriation of my intellectual property. They settled in our living room, their voices animated with ambitious planning while I continued my household tasks with convincing cognitive confusion. This is the breakthrough we've been waiting for, Ashley said, her eyes shining with the prospect of legitimizing their stolen success through corporate recognition. Biochem Industries commands respect throughout the international biotechnology community, a position that would establish your reputation permanently. Michael nodded while reviewing the company information the recruiter had sent via email. Biochem Industries' published research impressed him with its sophistication and humanitarian focus, though he remained unaware that every innovation had originated from my laboratory work and international partnerships. Their discussion revealed the depth of their ambition and the complete absence of remorse about building their careers on attempted murder and intellectual theft. The presentation needs to demonstrate our understanding of advanced treatment methodologies, Michael explained while organizing the research materials they had stolen from my files. We should emphasize the humanitarian applications and cost reduction potential. Ashley suggested highlighting their collaborative approach to research development, positioning themselves as innovative partners capable of advancing Biochem Industries' mission through their combined expertise. Neither suspected that they were preparing to present my own work to the woman they had tried to eliminate as professional competition. Monday morning arrived with autumn clarity that matched my mental state as final preparations began. I watched from our bedroom window as Michael selected his most expensive suit and polished his presentation materials with meticulous attention to detail. His confidence reflected someone who believed academic success had been legitimately earned through personal merit and dedication. I think this interview could change everything for us, Michael said while adjusting his tie in our dresser mirror. Biochem Industries represents the future of cancer treatment research. He kissed me goodbye with the same tender consideration he had maintained throughout our marriage deception, his performance of devoted husband continuing even in private moments when no audience existed to witness his false compassion. The consistency of his acting demonstrated psychological compartmentalization that allowed him to maintain elaborate lies while believing in his own manufactured identity. 30 minutes after Michael departed for downtown Seattle, I began my own transformation. The wheelchair that had confined me for 4 years was abandoned permanently as I moved through our house with steady coordination. The tailored business suit I had purchased months earlier fit perfectly, transforming my appearance from cognitively impaired patient to corporate executive with striking effectiveness. The psychological preparation required for this confrontation challenged my emotional control more than any previous performance. 4 years of witnessing systematic destruction of my professional reputation and personal identity had built toward this moment when justice would finally be served through perfect irony. The woman they had attempted to eliminate would reveal herself as the architect of their professional fate. Biochem Industries headquarters building rose 30 floors above downtown Seattle, its glass and steel construction reflecting my vision of scientific innovation serving humanitarian purposes. The executive conference room on the 28th floor provided panoramic views of the city where my mother had died from a disease we could not afford to treat properly. Every architectural detail embodied the transformation of personal grief into global healing through accessible medical breakthrough. Elena, Hassan, Chin, and Weber had arrived that morning from their respective international locations, their presence providing both professional support and personal validation for the comprehensive response I had developed to address Michael and Ashley's betrayal. These brilliant colleagues understood the significance of this confrontation beyond personal vindication toward establishing precedent for protecting intellectual property rights and research integrity. Michael waited in the conference room with his presentation materials arranged precisely across the polished table, his posture reflecting confidence tempered by nervous anticipation about this career-defining opportunity. Ashley sat beside him as moral support and research collaborator, her Johns Hopkins credentials lending academic credibility to their joint application for biotechnology leadership. When I entered the conference room accompanied by my international board of directors, Michael's recognition was instantaneous and devastating. The color drained from his face as 4 years of careful deception collapsed in a single moment of revelation. The woman he had tried to destroy with deliberately administered poison stood before him as founder and CEO of the company representing his greatest professional aspiration. Ashley's reaction proved even more dramatic as her carefully maintained composure crumbled under the weight of understanding the full scope of deception she had participated in creating. Her confident bearing dissolved into shocked confusion as she processed the implications of my presence and obvious cognitive capacity contradicting everything they had believed about my condition. "Hello, Michael," I said, my voice clear and strong after years of enforced silence. "Thank you for coming today. I believe you wanted to discuss cancer research." The moment of revelation provided profound satisfaction as 4 years of careful planning and international empire building culminated in perfect psychological warfare. Their elaborate fraud was about to be exposed through the very ambition that had motivated their original betrayal. The silence that followed my greeting stretched across the conference room like a physical presence. Michael's mouth opened and closed soundlessly while Ashley gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white against the polished mahogany surface. The presentation materials they had prepared lay scattered before them, my own research findings transformed into their professional salvation, now revealed as evidence of their systematic fraud. "Please, proceed with your presentation," I continued, settling into the chair at the head of the conference table with the composed authority of someone who had spent years planning this moment. "I understand you have significant findings to share regarding affordable cancer treatment development." Elena, Hassan, Chin, and Weber took their positions around the table, their presence lending gravitas to proceedings that would determine not only Michael and Ashley's professional fate but establish precedent for protecting intellectual property rights throughout the academic community. Their international credentials provided legitimacy that transcended personal vindication toward broader institutional reform. Michael attempted to recover his composure, clearing his throat while shuffling through presentation slides that now felt like incriminating evidence rather than career advancement tools. His voice cracked slightly as he began describing methodology that I had developed during countless late nights in my laboratory, grief over my mother's death driving every breakthrough he claimed as his own achievement. "Our research demonstrates targeted therapy delivery systems that reduce treatment costs while maintaining therapeutic effectiveness," Michael began, his words carrying less conviction than they had during academic conferences where no one questioned his ownership of these discoveries. Ashley contributed technical details about molecular binding patterns and protein synthesis applications, but her explanations relied on surface-level understanding that became increasingly apparent as she struggled to defend advanced concepts requiring deep theoretical knowledge. Their presentation proceeded through familiar territory, my research findings reduced to preliminary observations they could neither extend nor fully comprehend. Dr. Hassan interrupted their methodology description with pointed questions about clinical trial design and patient population selection criteria that exposed gaps in their practical understanding. "Could you elaborate on your approach to addressing genetic variations in treatment response across diverse patient demographics?" Michael exchanged uncertain glances with Ashley before providing generalized responses that avoided specific biochemical pathways forming the foundation of effective targeted therapy protocols. Their inability to engage with sophisticated technical questions revealed the fraudulent basis of their academic success to colleagues who possessed expertise necessary to recognize intellectual appropriation. The research approaches you describe represent preliminary findings that Biochem Industries abandoned as ineffective several years ago, I explained with professional courtesy that barely concealed the satisfaction of watching their deception crumble. Your methodology relies on protein synthesis rates and molecular binding mechanisms we determined were inadequate for clinical application. The statistics they quoted came from trials I had surpassed through superior protocols developed through my international partnerships. Their treatment proposals outlined approaches my research network had already implemented successfully across multiple continents, serving patient populations they could never access through traditional academic channels. We appreciate your interest in Biochem Industries, but our research directions align with cutting-edge innovation rather than outdated preliminary approaches, I continued, allowing the full implications of their situation to register. The company will pursue different candidates whose expertise matches our commitment to breakthrough medical discovery. Michael's face reflected growing panic as he processed the comprehensive nature of my deception over 4 years of supposed cognitive impairment. The woman he had attempted to eliminate through deliberate poisoning had not only survived but constructed an international biotechnology empire that rendered his greatest professional aspirations completely unattainable. Jennifer, I can explain, Michael began, his voice desperate as he grappled with the collapse of everything he had built through systematic theft and attempted murder. Dr. Walsh, I corrected firmly. And there is nothing left to explain. The dossier documenting your intellectual property theft, academic fraud, and attempted murder through deliberate poisoning will be delivered to appropriate authorities within 24 hours. Your careers in academic research are ending, but your education in consequence accountability is just beginning. The comprehensive evidence I had compiled over 4 years provided irrefutable proof of their crimes. Recorded conversations about patent applications and publication strategies demonstrated premeditation. Financial records showed Michael's purchase of synthetic compounds used to trigger my severe allergic reaction. Timestamped documentation revealed systematic plagiarism spanning months before my poisoning incident. Academic institutions across multiple countries would receive detailed reports about their fraud within hours of this meeting's conclusion. University ethics committees would initiate formal investigations resulting in immediate suspension from research positions. Professional organizations would revoke their academic credentials and research privileges while legal authorities pursued criminal charges for attempted murder and intellectual property theft. The vindication extended beyond personal justice toward protecting other researchers from similar victimization. Legal precedent would be established for prosecuting academic fraud and research theft, creating institutional accountability that had been lacking when Michael and Ashley believed they could eliminate intellectual competition through systematic poisoning and property appropriation. Ashley broke her stunned silence with a choked sob as the full scope of their situation became clear. We never meant for anyone to get hurt. The research was just sitting there and you seemed unable to continue. You poisoned me with calculated precision to cause permanent brain damage, I replied, my voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent years documenting their crimes. You systematically stole intellectual property representing my mother's legacy and my life's dedication to accessible medical innovation. The humanitarian mission you claimed to support was corrupted into personal advancement through attempted murder and academic fraud. Biochem Industries' global success proved that my intellectual capabilities had not only remained intact after their poisoning attempt but evolved beyond previous limitations through international collaboration and entrepreneurial vision. Cancer treatments were reaching patients worldwide at costs 90% lower than existing alternatives, fulfilling my original promise to honor my mother's memory through accessible medical breakthrough. International clinical trials demonstrated treatment effectiveness across diverse populations while generating revenue streams funding continued research development and global distribution expansion. Thousands of lives were being saved through affordable treatments that provided meaning transcending personal revenge while establishing permanent legacy for global medical advancement. Standing at the conference room windows overlooking Seattle, I reflected on the psychological journey from betrayal victim to empowered architect of justice. The transformation extended far beyond simple revenge into comprehensive personal and professional renewal that would define the remainder of my career and life purpose. The woman who had been silenced by poison had found her voice again. But more importantly, she had discovered strength and resilience exceeding previous limitations. My marriage to Michael would be legally dissolved, but relationships with Elena, Ahmed, Sarah, and Marcus represented genuine partnerships built on mutual respect and shared commitment to medical innovation serving humanitarian purposes. The future held unlimited possibilities for someone who had learned to rise from absolute betrayal and transform devastating loss into global healing. My mother's memory would serve as eternal inspiration for continued dedication to accessible medical breakthrough, ensuring that her legacy lived on through treatments saving lives across every continent. Michael and Ashley gathered their materials in defeated silence, understanding that their academic careers had ended while their legal troubles were just beginning. The door closed behind them with finality that sealed their fate and opened the next chapter of my reconstructed life, dedicated to justice, innovation, and healing on scales they had never imagined possible. If this story of academic betrayal and brilliant revenge kept you captivated, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Jennifer revealed herself as the CEO of Biochem Industries, watching Michael and Ashley realize their victim had become their judge. What was your favorite moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more thrilling stories of justice and resilience. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.